All right, we are live for our first special edition podcast. Today, we are going to give you a WrestleMania recap where we're going to talk about the whole weekend and also the post WrestleMania Raw. And we only got two here. Joe may jump on. We don't want to take too much of your time, but we do want to discuss this a little bit more in depth. Andrew's not a big wrestling fan, so we don't want to hijack our regular podcast with wrestling stuff because I like to keep it where everybody can talk about the subjects. And but we did want to touch on what was a pretty good weekend of wrestling with about an hour and a half of bad wrestling. And we'll probably get into that here in a little bit. But with me today, like I said, Joe should be jumping on hopefully soon if he can get off of work. But the tag team champions are here. We'll hold it down. Mr. Jared Collins is here today. Our one half of the MOG tag team champions and also our world champion. Jared, what's up, man?
It's good. It's good to be here. How are you doing, Aaron?
I'm glad you're good, man.
I'm sorry. I was trying to get some of this up on my phone and I got distracted.
And of course, I'm your EIC, Mr. Aaron Collier here. So yeah, we're from Monsters of Geek. If this is your first podcast and you just say, hey, WrestleMania, I want to hear people talk about WrestleMania, go visit our blog at monstersofgeek.com. But we're going to talk about WrestleMania weekend today. And Jared, it was we're going to start with WrestleMania because I think we'll probably spend the majority of our time talking about NXT, which may be the best wrestling show I've seen in 5 or 6 years. I mean, it was just a really, really good wrestling show. Jared, let's talk about WrestleMania first. We'll go ahead and get the negative out. That was a very long pay-per-view. If you watched the pre-show with the pay-per-view, it was 7 hours. If you just watched the main pay-per-view, it was almost 5. Jared, do you think they was running? It almost felt like the Rock stuff was just thrown in there just for the heck of it. What do you think about the length of this one?
Oh, it was awful. I mean, just trying to sit through 5 hours of broadcasting. I mean, the first 3 were really decent, but that last part of the show, it was really rough. I just was like, when is this going to end? You know, I mean, the Rock stuff probably took up 20 minutes. I'm trying to think of the other matches. I know the main event right there at the end. It was just so late. It kind of seemed like the crowd was dead. And I'm sure, sitting in those seats in that stadium, that's not the most comfortable thing you could be doing.
And they had some issues with the Wi-Fi. Shauna was looking on Twitter while we actually did a live stream of it. Listen, I want to tell the 5 people that disliked our stream. Did you really think we were going to turn the camera on WrestleMania and get completely kicked off of YouTube? Did you really think we was going to do that? Because I guarantee you that's why they put the thumbs down. But whatever. We ended up getting like 136 views from that, which is pretty impressive. Us goofing off there. The biggest thing is, and we talked about, they had some Wi-Fi issues. They had about 600 people that was actually who is chewing on something?
This is Robin. She's eating cookies.
This is the Cookie Podcast. No, but it was they had some Wi-Fi issues. I guess they was scanning tickets through the Wi-Fi system at Cowboy Stadium. And the Wi-Fi went down because there's 101,000 people in there. And basically had 600 people, from what I understood, that was out in the foyer trying to get in. Had some people fall out because they were, dehydrated and everything else. And it's pretty interesting because, the show was starting and people was like, let us in. So they had a lot of issues. And then the show just ran completely too long, at least in my personal opinion. And we're both big wrestling fans. And, we've watched some pretty long ROH ones. If you look at some of those old WCW ones, obviously not 5 hours long, but they're a good 2.5, 3 hours. They're pretty good amount of wrestling there. I just felt like the last hour and a half was just either rushed or just could have been completely cut out.
Well, they started almost 30 minutes late just because of that issue. And they started to do the Kalisto and Ryback match, but there were so many empty seats that they didn't want to put it on yet. They're still trying to get people in the building. And when you're running into those issues, I don't know. I wouldn't put that necessarily on the WWE. That's more on the facility right there. But
just think if they would have put the U.S. title match between Kalisto and Ryback on the main card. Like, just think how long that would put it over 5 hours, because I think that match lasted a good 10, 15 minutes usually.
I think it was 9 minutes.
Okay, it wasn't too bad, but it would have been close to exactly 5 hours.
Right. I mean, it didn't end till 11:45.
Yeah,
and that's longer than any pay-per-view they've ever put on. And
yeah, even some of the even the the one back when Hogan then was there in about late 80s, early 90s, they would have an intermission between. Remember, they would have 4 matches and then kind of like this little mini main event to split the card, and then the main events would be afterwards. This was just boom, 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 boom. I mean, they was moving fast. It was just too long. Let's talk about the main event a little bit. The card was bottom stacked. It started with the Intercontinental Ladder match, which was really good. We'll talk about that a little bit when we get to Raw, because I have a little bit of a bone to pick with booking. And then you had AJ and Jericho that was next. Then you had the New Day and League of Nations stuff that was next after that, and then it was the women's match. I think women's match was next after that.
Let's see, League of Nations. No, Brock and Ambrose.
Oh, Brock and Ambrose.
Yep.
And then the women's match was after Brock and Ambrose.
Yep.
Then you had the Rock stuff, the Battle Royal, and
that was Undertaker. Then the Battle Royal.
Kane. That's right.
Yep.
That's right.
Then the Rock and the main event.
So from the Rock, or from the Battle Royal probably down, it was a really bottom stack card, because there were some really good wrestling matches. AJ and Jericho always good. The ladder match was amazing. Sami Zayn kind of stole the show. He was jumping through ladders and through turnbuckles, and it was just a pretty amazing thing. But the main event, by the time it got up, and let me say this, I don't think the main event was a bad main event. Again, Roman Reigns' booking was bad. Everybody knew he was going to win, and it was an old school match that was preceded by fast, almost indie type wrestling on the bottom of the card. And Jared, that crowd was dead for it.
Yeah, I mean, even I would say after the Lesnar match, the crowd kind of started dying down. The women's match, that was probably one of the best. Mm-hmm. That's probably the best women's match that the WWE had ever put on.
Match on the card. That was a really, really good wrestling match.
Yeah, it was a really good triple threat match. The Undertaker Shane match, I mean, the crowd was kind of dead for it too, except for the high spot. Everybody would come to their feet when they thought something big was going to happen. They kind of got up for some of the stuff in the Battle Royal, but some of the special entrants, but overall, they weren't popping like they were earlier. Yeah, and I think that really hurt that last half of the card, because just anytime you do that and the crowd's so excited, how many concerts have we been to where the crowd's so pumped up and they get going, and then by the time you get to the 2 headliners, it seems like they're dead.
Yeah, it seems like you're dead. Right, correct. And that's exactly what it was like, man. I mean, I don't, and to be quite honest, now she's talked about Shane, if you didn't know, Shane McMahon jumped off a 20-foot cage through a table, which is absolutely, I'm 31, he's 40 something, and I can't make it to the refrigerator without, breathing hard. But I mean, I don't remember anything else but that part of that match. Now that I remember it starting really slow, like an MMA match, and we always like, this is stupid, just do a wrestling match.
Yeah, that match was 30 minutes.
Him jumping off.
Yeah, it was very slow paced, a 30-minute match. I remember Undertaker, or them bringing the steel steps in the ring. Very few things. Shane cutting the hole in the fence, stuff like that. But, if there was a big move hit, they would both be down for a little while, especially there toward the end. I don't know if necessarily the Undertaker if it's just his age or they were trying to pace it really well. But, that match could have been maybe 15 minutes or 20. You could have cut a big portion of that off.
Yeah, they drug it out. I thought that it would be 30 minutes with run-ins. I thought they would have some run-ins, or they kind of pace it like that. I totally forgot about the Undertaker, spearing Shane through the cage. I thought that was pretty cool. Now that you reminded me of it. But I just felt like it was too long. I thought it was bottom loaded, which was great for us because all of our guys were on that part of the card. And and the main event wasn't bad. I mean, it was just good, old school kind of good storytelling. And when he botched spots, it was a good, well put together match. It was just, by the time it came around, like, after seeing all that other stuff, I don't really want to see an old school kind of well paced match.
Yeah, and like you said, the main event, it wasn't bad, but part of the problem was the fans. I think they knew Roman was going to win it, and they didn't want to see him win it.
Yeah,
and
it was bad, and I kind of feel bad for Roman because he was booed from the time he came out. From the time, I mean, it was bad on the kid, man. And I'm not a Roman Reigns hater. I think he's a great athlete. I think he has a lot of potential. I think his booking's been terrible. We've talked about this a billion times how bad his booking's been, but it just kind of stinks that and now you have kind of a reason to root for Triple H because he created NXT, and NXT is awesome. So, it's kind of hard to be like, well, I root for Triple H too. But, I just wish there was more of a classic heel face, the big WrestleMania event with that stuff. But I don't know what they're going to do with him now. I think unless they're going to book him straight heel, he's just going to be booed.
Yeah, and I read several of the people that were there at the event. And I think WWE kind of suppressed the boos when he won because from what I heard, that when the bell rang, that just about the whole crowd in there started booing him. So that didn't come across on the network when we were watching. But
I followed Sid Vicious on Twitter, which he's you think Sid's character, you wouldn't think he you think he'd just be bonkers off the wall, but he's really good. I mean, he's really a student of wrestling, and he's really he throws out some really good ideas and whatnot. And he even said, he goes, do you might feel like the boos were really loud, and then like halfway through the match, it felt like they turned the volume down on it, and they kept shooting back. If you notice near the end, they kept shooting back between the fireworks going on the outside and Roman Reigns. It was quick cuts, just like fireworks, fireworks, Roman Reigns, just to kind of keep that booing down a little bit. It was an interesting plan to keep Roman Reigns. It looks like he's a heel. Even Bill Simmons' son, which I think he's a 10 or 11, or maybe even younger. He was like, he didn't even care that Roman Reigns won. He said he popped really big for Cena coming out, but he was like, he didn't care about Roman Reigns at all. So weird.
You bring up Sid, and just anybody who had to make it during that period between the 80s and early 90s, they all had to be students of the game. They had to learn how to read the crowds, and it didn't matter how good or how bad they were. They had to learn how to tell a decent story unless, Vince brought them up because they were a big guy and pushed them. But everybody who come up through those smaller systems, they were all students.
I think sometimes people forget that because, like I said, Sid doesn't come off as like the smartest guy in the world. He doesn't listen to this podcast, so I can say that. In all seriousness, like I'm scared of Sid Vicious. He really does seem like a psychopath. But yeah, you just figured he'd be just kind of joking on the pro. He's actually really, really smart. And, we forget that, these guys didn't have 3 hours of, 5 hours of TV to build stuff. They had to build it on local levels and during house shows. And maybe they had an hour TV show on every Saturday or something. But, Sid wasn't part of the Monday Night Wars. He was part of the, when it was kind of going downhill, when WBE was down, and then he was part of when WCW kind of went downhill. But I've watched a lot of his older matches, and that guy can go, man. I mean, he was good big man in the ring. I actually really liked him after watching all of his matches, but this is another subject. But he just brought up that he felt like they turned the volume down a little bit. So that's the back half. Let's talk about what we liked about WrestleMania, and then we'll move on to NXT because that's where the real wrestling is. It was a lot of NXT top matches. Obviously, the biggest surprise was the Intercontinental title match. Nobody thought Zack Ryder was going to win. We talked about before on the stream that it was either going to be Owens retaining, Sami Zayn winning, or maybe Ziggler getting another shot at it. But other than that, all those other guys was in there for bumps. Just, hey, let's do a crazy bump and get some crowd.
Kind of like the Money in the Bank matches. There's only one or two people that are really going to win it, but everybody else is there trying to steal the show.
Yeah, every so often there's one guy that kind of steals the show, right? And that's what you remember. Zack Ryder actually won the Intercontinental title. And like I said, we'll talk about when we get to Monday night, and I'll probably have a little bit of a rant there. But was really surprised, was really happy for Zack Ryder. He was a guy that when Punk was there, when Punk won the world title, when Daniel Bryan had the WWE title. Daniel Bryan had the world title. Zack Ryder won the U.S. title, and that was his first big singles push. And then just kind of went away. He didn't really have much to go with. They didn't book him correctly. He was still super over when he came out. People reacted to him, but WB wouldn't put him on the show very often. There was actually one time where he didn't make the New Jersey show where he was at. That's usually the one show he would be on at Raw. I think it was last year or 2 years ago. Wasn't even on that one, so they really wasn't booking him really well. So I was really surprised, really awesome that he got the Intercontinental Championship. Jerry, that was probably the biggest shocker of the night as far as who went over. What do you think about Zack Ryder getting that win?
I was happy to see it for him. He had his moment after the match. His dad come out. It was something pretty special for him. Something probably he went his whole life trying to get, and I was glad to see that. Overall, coming down there at the end, I was trying to think back. The match as a whole, Sami Zayn, he kept popping up everywhere, and right at the beginning of the match when him and Owens were standing toe to toe, that got the crowd fired up, and they were really in it then. And from then on,
finally,
hey Joe,
what's up, Joe?
What's going on?
The Yeti is on it. We're talking
the
about
Yeti has returned.
We're talking about Wrestlemania first because NXT was better. So we're talking about Zack Ryder winning the Intercontinental Championship. Man, what do you think about? We was all kind of surprised on that.
Yeah. I think if you go back, my dog just locked my screen. if you go back to like the WrestleMania thing we done, the little hangout, I think I said it'd be cool if Zack Ryder won, and he ended up winning.
Yeah, I know. You call everything.
No, I didn't say I called it. I just said it'd be cool. So I thought it was cool that he won.
I'll have to go back and check the evidence on that.
Say hi, buddy. Yeah, okay.
But yeah, so that was a big surprise. Probably the biggest spot of that match was what was it, Sin Cara on to Cody Rhodes or Stardust, which we need Cody Rhodes back. That guy's super talented. Even in that gimmick he has, he's super talented. Probably one of the best workers in the whole company. He needs something else. Cool Tatsu was paying homage to his dad. Had the polka dots in the black, and that was pretty cool in the highlights as far
your
as
cool tights.
They were cool tights.
I said your cool tights.
My cool tights. Yeah. But yeah, so moving on to the other surprise was that Jericho went over AJ. I thought that was really kind of a surprise. I thought AJ would get that win on WrestleMania. Jerry, was you a little bit surprised that Jericho went over there?
Yeah, I really was. When I saw Styles going to the top, I knew that Jericho was going to hit the code breaker off of that. But then I was like, are they going to give him the win? Because you bring AJ in and he's hot. And, Jericho, he lost to Fandango, a couple years ago because, he wanted to do the job for him, to put somebody over. And I just thought, that would be the way this one was too. So I really was surprised when he beat AJ. But I'm sure AJ will be around long enough to have several more WrestleMania moments.
Yeah, I hope so. Moving down the card, the Ambrose. I don't know if the Ambrose Brock match was a good match. It was just kind of cringeworthy the whole time. Brock kind of threw Ambrose around. There's a second there where Ambrose hit the dirty deeds on Brock for a split second, and I thought, maybe they are going to put him over. But Brock kicked out in the last minute, and then you kind of figured out Brock was going over. But it was a good mesh of styles, very stiff match. Ambrose wasn't. I don't think Ambrose was on Raw the next night, so that may be for reals that he was hurting and really wasn't on Raw. Or maybe he's just selling it. Joe, that was one of your matches as far as one of the ones you was looking forward to. Did it live up to the hype? Or
no?
No. Okay. Why didn't it live up to the hype for you?
I wanted more blood.
Jeez.
I did.
This is coming.
Man.
Listen, this is coming. Let me give you some background, Joe. So Joe's a big Fable fan. And Joe one time decided.
No, you can't tell the story right.
He wanted to kill a child for
No, you ain't
for an
telling
evil
the story
weapon,
right.
and was sacrificing children.
Oh,
mainly.
yeah, for the bow of scorn, yeah. Yeah, I did do that. I thought he was gonna tell the other
So
story.
Joe loves blood. Joe loves blood.
I thought
So
he was
Joe,
gonna tell the one.
I mean, do you think it would? I mean, I thought. I mean, blood probably could have added to it, but I thought it was a good match overall as far as storytelling. Do you think blood would have added more to it?
I mean, it was overall yes, but it was a hard. Well, I mean, it was booked as a hardcore match, and it wasn't really. You had some stick shots, but that's really all you had.
That's it. And you know, Jeremy, you talk about this a lot when it comes to WB. They don't do a lot of blood anymore. But when there's like a street fight or a a Hell in a Cell match, something like a big blow off match, where back in the day that's when they would blood. That's when they would blade or bleed. You watch a lot of the old NWA stuff, and you're like an NWA historian to me. But they use blood to propel the story. I wish WB, when it made sense, would do blood. I don't think everybody should be cutting themselves and blood should be all over the mat. But in that type of match, do you think blood was even brought up? I mean, you would have to, right?
Yeah, between those two, it probably was brought up. But they after the whole Batista thing, Batista and Jericho, and who was it? Arn. I can't remember if it was Arn and Malenko. I know Malenko was in there with somebody, but because they were the agents, and they got fined $5 or $10 grand a piece, and Batista got fined $100 grand just for bleeding. And even though Jericho, like technically he didn't know about it, he kind of left it up to Batista. He was still fine. And ever since then, people have been walking on eggshells because Vince does not want it on the show. If at all possible. I think Roman got his nose busted. That Well, that was Triple H, so nothing was probably said about that.
Well, but I don't know if you saw. Did you see the video of him getting handed a blood patch?
Yeah, I saw that.
Which is fine. I mean, if that's what you got to do, that's what you got to do.
Yeah.
I don't expect people to walk around with blades anymore. That's just not. And JR even said it one time. He's like, it's just not how TV is anymore. He said you can't get away with that. And it may be a good thing, maybe a bad thing.
I don't know. The way Flair used to hide some of that stuff, you could never tell when he cut himself.
I mean, with it being booked as a street match, I expected to at least leave the ring.
Yeah, it kind of stayed kind of centralized. It wasn't a bad match for what it was. I thought it was, a decent street fight, but,
it wasn't even the streets.
Yeah, I kind of expected them to kind of wrestle more away from the ring, and they kind of kept it more inside the ring, which was kind of surprising to me, considering how that feud kind of went. He was tacked outside. Brock literally stepped on his head on Monday night, like how Brock is. Brock, he works different than anybody probably in the locker room. Literally stepped on his head, which was pretty brutal looking. Yeah, I mean, it could have had more blood, but I thought it was a decent match. I thought the build-up was really good for that match. I thought that was one of the better builds for it, considering they only started building like a month out there. But it was decent. It wasn't the greatest match ever, but it was a good, a well-booked match as far as false finishes and stuff, and some of the stuff they did. I think the highlight of the night, and I'm not even gonna talk about the match because the match was kind of dumb, but the New Day coming out. The New Day coming out in Dragon Ball armor was absolutely amazing. I was flipping out on the broadcast. I thought that was really cool. As Joe is fixing him something to eat, it sounds like.
No, I was let the dog out.
You and Robin and your food noises.
I wasn't eating. I was letting the dog out.
Okay, gotcha. But anyway, they came out and it was really cool. They came out a big box of Bootios. I think we all love the New Day here on this podcast. Just a really cool moment. And then, of course, they lost the match, and then all the guys, Barrett got on the mic and was like, we can beat the guys in the locker room, and Shawn Michaels and Mick Foley, and then
Stone Cold.
Stone Cold came out, of course, and the crowds went nuts. They cleared the ring, started dancing. Shawn and Mick Foley would dance, and then Xavier Wood finally got Stone Cold to dance, and then got stunned for his try to get him to dance there. So yeah, it works. It was really fun. I thought it was one of the funnier moments, and it fit. Unlike the Rock and Wyatt family, I just felt like that didn't fit. I felt like
it was horrible,
and I thought it kind of fit into what the show was.
It was horrible.
What was horrible? The Rock thing?
Yes.
Yeah, we already talked about the last back half of the show and how terrible it was. So
he didn't even have to come out there.
Jared, you've said this for a while. You love the New Day, but you thought that they maybe didn't make the. Did they bear? Do you think they view Bray Wyatt as kind of this guy that can get done with anything and not really lose any crowd support, and that's why they sent him out there?
I don't know what they think.
It makes sense that they would send him out and let The Rock bury the Wyatt family.
Yeah, and you know what? Bray's promo, even when he came out there, was excellent.
Mm-hmm.
He's a wizard on the mic. He looked like he had slimmed down some. He looked like he was amazing, and I would like to see him and Rock go. I'm sure that would be a pretty decent match. I think they stick Bray in there with everybody because he makes them look good. But I really don't know why they send him out. The Rock was getting a big enough pop when he was come out there and with the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders and his flamethrower and all that stuff. He was he got a big enough pop for all that. And they didn't necessarily bury Bray, but put who was it? Luke Harper?
No, it wasn't Luke Harper. It was
Eric
Rowan.
Yeah, Eric Rowan.
That poor guy.
Yeah.
He made a career out of just getting a crap kicked out.
And the bad thing is him and Luke are a great tag team, too.
Luke Harper, they don't even let him take the pin anymore, which is great, because I think Luke Harper's a tremendous worker. I think they're all, minus Braun Strowman, is a good worker in that group. He's the one. He's the one they throw out there, and I guess...
And he's a good wrestler.
Oh, he is. He's good. He's a good big man.
When they were both on Next, when they was tag team champions, they were awesome.
Yeah, when they was both on NXT. Yeah, it sucks for him. I thought the Rock stuff was crappy. I thought them sending out the Wyatt family was crappy. It's not going to set up to anything, and they're not going to wrestle next year at WrestleMania. So I'll be surprised if they did. But I thought overall, Jared, what did you think overall? A lot of injuries we talked about, so I thought it was a very well-booked show for the first 3 hours or whatever that it was. Like I said, very bottom-heavy. I thought the women's match, which we haven't really talked about that much, but that match was amazing. They gave them enough time. I think that's why they moved the Royal Rumble to the buffer match between The Rock and the world title match, because that usually was reserved with the ladies. But they gave them enough time, and it was well booked and well planned out, and you could tell those three have unbelievable chemistry in the ring together. Jared, what do you think about that? I thought it was a really, really good match.
Yeah, it was solid and probably one of the best triple threat matches that WWE's put on. There was even it wasn't just a high spot fest.
Right.
There was some psychology in there, and they were able to work the crowd and work over body parts, and that's not something you get with a normal triple threat match. So I'm glad they just let them do what they knew how to do best, and let them get in there and work together. So yeah, I really enjoyed that one.
Yeah, it was a good one. I think it's and of course they unveiled the new WB Women's Championship, and they're not called Divas anymore. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But really a good step forward for women's wrestling, getting these gals in here and letting them just go, and it's been pretty amazing. Pretty deep roster of women's wrestling now, which is going to be pretty cool, especially with all the girls in NXT. I think it's going to be really cool in the next year or two, which is already cool now, but it's going to get even better. So let's move on to the real wrestling show for the weekend, the real WrestleMania that it came. What WrestleMania should have been.
Lucha Underground.
Let's talk about Lucha Underground. Let's talk about NXT Takeover from Dallas. This is their big pay-per-view or their big event before WrestleMania. I think we can all agree that the overall, I say it's an A plus show. I think the worst match was Aries and Baron Corbin. It wasn't a bad match. It was just kind of slow, a little bit plodding. Yeah. But it wasn't a bad match by any stretch. We won't talk too much about that. Aries is Aries. I think if they would have put Aries in a match with someone he could work a little bit better with, I think it would have been awesome. Corbin just kind of beat him around, and he beat him with a roll up. I think was the final. So it wasn't too bad. Jared, let's talk about. We won't save the best for last, but let's talk about the world title or the tag team title match. It was the American Alpha versus the Revival. And I think you would really dig those tag teams. and you texted me. And was like, I really like the Revival, but their tights don't match as much. And I said, Jared, they came out in windbreaker jackets. What more old school tag team do you want from those guys? It's very hard to play. I thought for sure, I was like, man, he's going to text me like, oh, man, these guys are awesome. Oh, this is the best tag team ever. And he's like, man, the tights don't match. You should have matched better.
Now the tights matched, but the boots didn't match.
The boots,
One of them, he had like silver and black boots on with red tights. No, you're a tag team. You have matching tights. You have matching boots. I mean,
Jared Collins, the Tom Gunn of wrestling.
Yeah, wrestling fashion, right?
Listen, I mean, that's just part of the look. You know, go back and look at, you know, and you compared them to
Arn and Tully.
Arn and Tully, which I don't think they're Arn and Tully. I think they're more of a Arn and Zbyszko.
Okay,
because Tully was more, I don't know, Tully, like Zbyszko and Arn were both enforcers. And that's kind of what these two guys are. Tully was just a little bit smaller, and he was a very solid worker. And, you know, that wasn't that chemistry with those two. But, you know, look at maybe everybody except for Bobby Eaton when he was Arn Anderson's partner. He had matching tights with everybody. I mean, Zbyszko and him, they were red or black or red or white or, you know, something. That's just the look. Look, every tag team, the Rockers, the Hart Foundation, the Legion of Doom.
Even Arn and Paul Roma had matching tights.
Yeah. Even Paul Roma and Hercules. I mean, come on. The Warlord and the Barbarian.
The tag team ever.
Even Tito Santana and Rick Martel when they were Strike Force. I mean, you're going to be World Tag Team Champions, you're going to have to match. I just
thought it was funny because I thought for sure, I was like, man, this is Jared's tag team. This is what he wants. And then I
really did enjoy it. I mean, I think Scott Dawson, he does remind me a lot of Arn. Very methodical in the ring and everything. And, you know, I really liked American Alpha too, though. It does kind of remind me of a very young Shelton Benjamin, Charlie Haas. You're kind of learning the ropes right now. And Chad Gable, you know, he's got his Olympic background, actually. So,
actually, they're both in the Olympics, correct, if I'm not mistaken? They didn't win the Olympics. I thought both of them was in the Olympics.
I don't know if Jason Jordan was or not. No, I don't think so. He did wrestle at Indiana University.
Oh, maybe that was it. Yeah, maybe he wrestled for a national title or something like that. But I really like American Alpha. I thought, you know, they put those guys. If you watch the NXT behind the scenes thing, they were just kind of thrown together, and they didn't really want to be a tag team. They even said that. I was like, well, kind of want to be single wrestlers. Jason Jordan had been there for a while, didn't really want to be in a tag team, and they just meshed, man. I mean, they really the only botch in that match was that tag match. The Revival tried to go there for the finisher. I don't know what happened. They picked up a Gable, and like it just didn't happen. Like I just don't know if they didn't have their balance or whatnot, but they ended up dropping him. Of course, the crowd let them know. But the thing about it is you know, all those guys kind of just went with it. You know, they just didn't let it bother them, and they went with the match, and the match was really awesome.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it, and it had a more of an old school feel, which I think I texted you about as well. Yeah. You know, the Revival got one of them in the ring and worked over them, and I think it was Gable they worked over, and Jason Jordan got the hot tag, and you know, was able to come in and start the comeback. So you know, it was structured very much like one of the older matches you would see, more like a classic match. So yeah, I enjoyed that aspect of it as well.
Yeah, I was just you know, thinking the other day how there was a tag match on Raw and there was a hot tag, and it really didn't get a reaction like hot tag, you know, used to. That's been a problem for the last, I'll say, 10 years in wrestling. The hot tags just didn't really do anything because everybody knew it was coming, and of course the tag team ranks were down, so nobody really cared. But I thought they built up to that because he gets so close to pull back. He gets so close to pull back, and it was just, it really did remind me of the Rock and Roll Express and I guess the Midnight Express, right?
Yeah.
And how they used to do matches. I mean, it was just, oh, he'd almost get but once they got that tag, I mean, the whole place erupted. It was the same kind. It kind of gave me a little bit of goosebumps of those old school tag matches. I thought it was very, very well done. Probably the best, you know, hot tag I've seen in years.
Oh yeah, it's been a long time since that, but and the crowd was hot too, so
Yeah.
that made it even more special, I think.
So the obviously Bailey had a great match against how do you say it?
That was a
Uh,
terrific match.
yeah, it was against I always say her name wrong. Not Osaka. It's oh no, it's not Asuka.
Asuka,
It's not, I don't,
Asuka.
yeah, I don't think it's how you say it though.
No, it's not.
Saka or something like that. Anyway, she's a great wrestler too, just from Japan. She's very stiff. Like ugh, her matches hurt. Very good match. Bailey is probably one of the best workers out of anybody on the roster. She's a very Cena-like character as far as how she's a straight up baby face, and you just don't see straight up baby faces anymore. And the crowd loves her. That girl's got a huge, once she gets up on Raw, she's going to blow up and become that next great women's superstar, and coming at the right time. Very hard hitting match, very stiff match. Probably maybe not one of her best matches. Good booking. Booking was that she kind of fainted. She kind of faded out. And I like WWE's new policy. They drop the arm once and it's over. I think it adds a little bit more tension to it, I guess, instead of the old three arm drop. Let's see. World title match is really good. Jared, let's talk about and Joe, you want to jump in here too. Talk about the Samoa Joe and Finn Balor match. They kept stopping it. They stopped it about 5 times. You could tell
Let them wrestle.
You tell Joe was getting visibly upset. Joe got busted open early. They basically hit heads. Joe got a pretty good cut above his eye. I don't think it was a gash. I think it was just a clean cut. I mean, it wasn't nothing that I saw that was, terrible about it. But it kept coming out, and they kept, trying to stop the blood. Get going again, blood come out, they had to stop. And you could tell Joe was getting visibly frustrated. It wasn't just a character thing. He was getting visibly frustrated they were stopping this match. Somebody tweeted Mick Foley, and Mick Foley blocked him and said, he was like, they're just trying to do the safety, and, we didn't really have that back then. And that's all great. But at some point, I think if you are a professional, you could look at that cut and be like, you know what? It's going to bleed. It's not bad. It's not a gash. It's not that we can't fix later. Just let them go. And Jared, what do you think? And Joe, you can jump in here too. What do you think about them continuing to stop that match?
I think it ruined the flow of the match.
It did.
Mm-hmm.
Baylor and Joe, they're both two terrific workers, and every time they would start to get something going, and then one of them would go down for a minute, it was like, oh, let's jump in here and check this cut real quick. And then, 30 seconds later, and I think it bothered Baylor too, because it looked like he was getting a little frustrated, getting kind of antsy when they were checking Joe out. So I think that was it hurt it. It probably wasn't as good as the NXT London or Takeover London match that they had together, and it could have been probably but that cut, really bogged things down.
Yeah, Joe, what do you think about it? I mean, we kind of talked about it a little bit. We was texting back and forth. They just kept, stopping it. And what do you think about that as it went on?
I mean, we've seen them wrestle before. We know what kind of matches they can put on, and it did kill the flow. I think it ruined the match.
I don't think it ruined the match. I think it was a good match. I just think it could have been better. You could tell how professional those guys was, because they kept kind of trying to get back into the match. And even though the match was stopped and the flow was stopped, I thought they did a pretty good job of kind of recovering, I guess. And it ended up being, a 3-4 star match. It wasn't a bad match by any stretch. But
I mean, it was a good match, but it ruined what the match could have been.
Oh, most definitely. Yeah.
I mean, I understand if he was in there bleeding profusely, just pouring the blood, needing, and after the match, he'd have to take a liter of blood or something. But I mean, he wasn't bleeding that bad.
No, he wasn't bleeding that bad. And again, I would think that a doctor would be like, it's not that bad of a cut, guys. These guys can still go. It's fine. It's not a big deal. It's going to bleed. He can wipe it off. It's no big deal.
I mean, just think if they would have stopped the match.
Yeah, for real. Yeah.
What would have happened if they would have stopped the match? That place would have been crazy.
There'd have been a riot.
Yeah. So, I mean, you got to set points to where, say, like, if they are bleeding like really bad, like just profusely, just pouring the blood, Crimson Mask just pouring, I could see. But I mean, it wasn't even a gash, like you said, it was a cut that just was bleeding just a little bit. I could see it stopping it for like something like pouring, but for that, I mean, maybe once or twice I could deem it just to kind of make sure his eye's not swelling shut, that he can actually see. But other than that, I mean, I think they stopped it too much.
Yeah, Finn Balor, of course, retained, which was a little bit of a surprise with some of the rumors that were going around him being on Raw, but still a good match between the two. So let's talk about the biggest match of the night, the one that everybody was so stoked for. It was Nakamura versus Sami Zayn. So of course, Sami Zayn's last match on NXT, I would think anyway. Jared, that match lived up to all the hype. Nakamura lived up to all the hype. This is my first Nakamura match. I went back and watched some clips here or there of him. Jared, you've seen more of him than I have. So this is my first Nakamura match, and WB tends to dumb guys down. They didn't knock for Nakamura, from what I understand, and Jared, you can kind of touch on it too. He was Nakamura, the same Nakamura he was in New Japan Pro Wrestling. It was an absolutely fantastic match. I don't see us having any better match this year. I say I'm probably match of the year. I think Meltzer gave it a 5-star, if I'm not mistaken, if I read on Twitter right. Just, Jared, talk about, you've seen Nakamura. Was you worried when he came out? And then at the end of the match, do you think WB, you have a little bit more faith in how WB is going to handle him?
When he come out, I wasn't worried because just that charisma that he has comes through. And when I watched the pay-per-view from New Japan last year, and JR was doing commentary, and JR come across and he said, when Nakamura was coming out, he's like, this guy could be a superstar anywhere he went. And when he come out, and he's got a flair for the dramatic a little bit, just the way he moves, and the NXT fans are so smart, and it's starting to transition over to the WWE main roster as well. But I knew as soon as they started that match, I was like, I got some goosebumps, because I was like, this is going to be brawl, and they did work stiff, which is good for Nakamura. It wasn't overly stiff, because you watch the stuff from Japan and they're leaving welts on each other.
Right.
But him and Zayn, you could tell that they were getting snug in there with each other. And Nakamura even had his nose busted. So, I was worried at first a little bit when they first signed. I was like, I hope they do not ruin this character, because he could really be something special. And then, after seeing the match, then if they let him continue to do that, he could go to the top very quickly.
Yeah, it was really good. Of course, Sami Zayn, we all know how good of a worker he is. We've seen many Sami Zayn matches when he was El Generico on ROH. When they were in the middle of the ring trading forearms, then the crowd were just eating it up and be like, fight forever. I'll remember that chant forever, because it was just unbelievable. Fight forever. And it was like, it was amazing. Joe, what did you think about the match? This first time you've seen Nakamura, I believe. What did you think about him? I think he would be right down your alley as far as, he's almost like if Michael Jackson was a wrestler. That's exactly what he's like. He's like a pop star wrestler. What do you think about Nakamura and the first time you've seen him?
I enjoyed the match. I enjoyed the character. That's something that I could get into, because he's so over the top. And I liked that. I thought it plays to the fans well. As far as the match goes, I don't think I've seen a better match in maybe 6 years.
Yeah, it was a great match, just a straight up great match, and it was one of those matches that I think everybody wanted to be good, and it ended up being great. if you're not part of the WWE Network, just pay $9.99 for a month and go watch that match. I mean, it's amazing how good that match was. I texted Joe and I was like, you've just got to watch. I texted Jared and I said, I can't wait till you watch this match because it was just an unbelievable match. And Zayn stood right in there and he delivered just as much as Nakamura did. And I think they were just a perfect. It was just a perfect moment. Two wrestlers that meshed for that one night. The crowd was all over. It was unbelievable. I mean, it was just a great atmosphere and a great match. So I was super glad to see that from that card. The whole card was pretty amazing, but that match just, I mean, it was. I'm getting a little bit goosebumps just talking. I may have to go watch it again because it was just unbelievable. So let's move on to Raw. As far as I think I covered NXT, I think it's all the NXT matches that we had there. Quick on Raw, my rant quickly is that Zack Ryder won the Intercontinental title. Zack Ryder loses to The Miz. Absolutely terrible booking. I don't understand it. I didn't understand at the time. I had a little inkling. I thought, man, because The Miz is like, I want a title shot now, and you're a coward. And usually when that happens, it doesn't end up good for the guy you want to win. And it just, Miz is the new Intercontinental Champion. I don't understand. I'm not saying Miz doesn't do a good job. Like, I think Miz's character, that's him, and he does a good job of portraying it. I just don't understand it. I don't understand it. I remember I was streaming it, and I smacked, the couch or whatever, and I thought, man, you've got to be kidding me that they would put The Miz over Zack Ryder. He lost again to him tonight. Actually, we're doing this on a Thursday, so SmackDown was on. Read the spoilers. He lost tonight to The Miz. Jared, what did you think of that booking? It just didn't make much sense to me.
No, I was really disappointed. I hate those short title reigns because it just kind of devalues the championship, especially when you get multiple, like, back to back to back. Like, if Miz turns around at the next pay-per-view and loses it to whoever they may want to put it on, then I think you lose credibility with it. And, I remember the Intercontinental Championship used to be that stepping stone. Yeah. We had, the Warrior had it and kind of elevated it. Honky Tonk Man had held it for a year, and he comes in, beats the Honky Tonk Man, and him and Rude feud over, and they go to main event status pretty much. Kurt Hennig, Bret Hart, they kind of raise it to another level. Shawn Michaels continues to take it, and you had The Rock and Stone Cold and Owen Hart
in there, yeah.
And that was something that was preparing these people for that main event push. And now it's just like I'll say like second class citizens on the card. They just can kind of throw it to whoever. I thought when Bryan Danielson had it, I was like, man, now they're kind of gonna kind of straighten this thing out with it and give it a little bit of credibility. But he got hurt, and they've not done much with it since to build it back up.
I thought KO would build it back up to a point.
And he did. He did to a certain extent, but why do you take it off KO? Why not make KO and or Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn? Why not make them feud for the Intercontinental title? Like, I don't understand why you take it off. Like, it's a feel good moment for Ryder. Why do you give it back to the men? Why not just let Owens win it back? Like, why don't you just let Owens win it back and feud with Zayn?
Why not just let Ryder keep it? I mean, you have him come out to the middle of the ring, tell this incredible story about how he met Scott Hall at I don't know if it was Wrestlemania. I can't remember where he said it was, and got a picture taken with Scott Hall, got to hold the International Championship, and then he shows a picture of Scott Hall holding his belt. I mean, you had that moment. You felt, the crowd was into it, and then, you let Miz take it back. And the way he won it was horrible anyway. But
yeah, it was bad. I mean, it's just, I don't know. I just didn't understand the booking. I thought they could have went 1,000 different ways instead of just handing it to the Miz. I thought that was stupid. Other things that happened on Raw, Enzo and Big Cass.
Yes.
I thought their stuff was really, really good with the Dudleys. I thought they came out and made that crowd was so hot for those guys. They just pop it all over the place, and all their when they come down repeating stuff, and they tell them, Cass is 7 foot. This is Big Cass, and he's 7 foot tall, and you can't teach that. It's just those guys are unbelievable charisma. Really good tag team. Joe, what'd you think about that? I thought, we've seen them before, and you've said before, because these guys are going to be stars, and I thought throwing them in with the Dudleys was perfect.
I think throwing them in with the Dudleys, and once they get built up, I mean, you have your fans of them because they ruled NXT for a while. You have your fans. Once they get them built up in the universe, could you imagine like a New Day casting in? Yeah. I mean, just the microphone work in that feud alone would be awesome.
And those guys ruled NXT without having the belts.
Yeah.
Like they never had the belts and nobody cared. They was like, they still was the most over tag team.
So I think they have something special because they work together well. Enzo works the mic. Both of them works the mic really well. And I mean, you don't have many tag teams these days that besides New Day that can actually work the microphone.
Right.
So I mean, if they do a feud with them in New Day, I mean, just the mic work on that alone is going to be something special, I think.
Jared, what do you think about Enzo and Big Cass?
I'm really impressed with, the mic work, and that it's kind of like, Paul Heyman. He used to be able to hide a lot of flaws, and, mic work's something that you can't hide. Mm-hmm. When you get on the mic and you get the crowd into it, sometimes it overshadows the matches. And, the crowd can forget about a crappy match, but you got a crappy promo. Right. They're not going to let you live it down.
Just ask Roman Reigns.
Oh, yeah. So that part has really impressed me. I didn't watch a lot of them in NXT, but what I've seen and the stuff they did with the Dudleys kind of gets you excited about it a little bit. And I would think they should bring back, the tag team division and help build it up, which I thought, the Dudleys would do when they come back, and they kind of have. They've helped out with New Day and some of the other tag teams, but there needs to be some new blood in there. Everybody's kind of tired of the Usos.
Yeah.
And the Usos need more people to work with. I mean, it's a symbiotic relationship. I mean, the Usos get over if they have good guys to work with. And I have no issue with the Usos. It's just like you said, they're just overdone at this point.
Yeah, you only have 3 really good tag teams. It's Dudley's, Usos, and New Day.
Right.
And you can only watch that so many times before you get tired of it.
Yeah, you thought we had the Lucha Dragons, but the Lucha Dragons are, Kalisto at this point. So, they kind of took that away. Jared, while I was watching them, and, you mentioned ECW and Paul Heyman, they remind me a lot of Doring and Roadkill. Maybe a little bit more of an amped up version of them, because obviously Roadkill didn't say much, but when he did, everybody thought it was hilarious when he talked. And of course, Doring could spit the most dirtiest innuendo-filled promo ever, and obviously they'll never get that chance to do it. But I thought just when I was like, who's these remind me? It's almost like a mixture of Edge and Christian and Doring and Roadkill. That's kept popping in my head as I was watching them.
I think that's a good analogy, because. There was something special about those two. Mm-hmm. And I love Doring and Roadkill.
Oh, it was awesome.
They were complete opposites, they were built as complete opposites, but they were hilarious together. Yeah. And, Edge and Christian, when they were doing their thing, there was, it would all come down to the promo, though.
Yep.
They would put on good matches, but what do you remember most? The 5-second pose.
Yeah.
The crazy things that they would come up with, and they would go around backstage and just have fun. And you can add that into it, then they're going to be special. And you can already see like the crowd's catching on. They've already got their audience. They're going to build. And you put them in there with the Dudleys, and the Dudleys are good on the mic too. So that could be something special and really push them up to the top of the tag team division.
Especially straight heel Dudleys. And Dudleys are playing straight. And we haven't seen the straight heel Dudleys in
a long time.
Mm-hmm. So very excited to see those guys back doing their heel gimmick. A cool moment with Charlotte, and we're trying to run through this because we all got to work in the morning. But cool moment with Charlotte and the women's title. Charlotte first of all, the crowd was kind of crapping on it, and I kind of got a little bit. I was like, "Come on, guys, let's." I mean, I think this is something that she's trying to be more serious about. And finally, they kind of got it. And in the middle of her promo, they started chanting "women's wrestling," and it was just a whole. I thought that was a really kind of cool moment in the middle of the show. And of course, she went on to cut a heel promo, and everybody walked out on her and stuff like that to build her as the heel champ. But I thought that was a really, really cool moment, building off of that triple threat match and building off of what they've done with the Divas Revolution, which isn't Divas anymore, like I said. Jared, I thought that was a really cool moment. Probably maybe the moment of the show. We talk about Enzo and Cass being a huge moment there, but I thought that was a really just kind of a cool wrestling fan moment.
Yeah, and I think Charlotte's really starting to build her own character. I know we talked about having her dad there and at Wrestlemania and stuff, and him kind of being overused, but she's playing the Ric Flair character very well.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of cocky and arrogant, and so the genes are there, and they're really dominant. And I think having her and then the other two women to play off of her, because without Flair, would some of the people that he went against, they would have never been as big. And she's not the greatest wrestler yet, but it's her cockiness and the kind of arrogance that comes off her because she is a Flair. She just exudes that.
And I like how she touches on there in that promo. She's like, I have greatness in my DNA. None of you have greatness in their DNA. I thought, and if that's the way that they take the character, I think it's spot on. I think it's perfect. If she can continue to cut promos and be like, look, I don't even have to try to be great. I've got it in my DNA. My dad's Ric Flair. So I thought that was really smart.
Yeah, and I like the way they're doing that. I think it can build something special for women's wrestling because, since let's see, Trish and Lita and Mickey James, they were pretty special. They could put on some pretty decent matches, but this is taking it up to a whole nother level.
Yep.
There's a lot of women's matches in ROH that were good, but this is probably better than that. It's just something special that they're starting to build upon, and even Bayley down in NXT, she is really good. So I say
she may be the best at all of them, and that's scary considering how good those three are.
Yeah, and she's a pure baby face.
Yeah.
I mean, as a Stone Cold or JR would say, she's a white meat baby face. But and even I was surprised, going back to NXT about how they kind of book that match and how they let her survive a lot of that stuff and build and build and build. And, even in the loss, it still kind of got her over more. And I think that's a lot of what they've done with the women's division. And even in some of these losses, with Charlotte cheating and stuff like that, you're not diminishing those characters. You're still building them up as legit contenders.
Joe, you want to say something?
I'm surprised Bayley didn't come down.
I was surprised too, especially after her loss to it's Osaka, I think is how they say it.
Osaka. I'm surprised that after everybody left, that's when I was expecting to hear the music and
that's what
her come down.
The crowd wanted it because during that full promo, it was like, "Hey Bayley," probably one of the best chants I've ever. They basically was like, "Hey Bayley, won't you be my girl?" I think it's hilarious. I think it's one of the greatest chants ever for any superstar ever. So that's really cool. But they wanted it. They was expecting it. Which was part of the reason they was kind of crapping on the promo because they just thought she would come out. But she may be the best out of all of them. And Jared, you talked about, we was talking about on the stream a little bit. She reminds us a lot of Sting. The way she comes out, the colors, the streamers off her jacket. And if that's the case, I would love to have a woman's version of Sting come out because she can go just like the Stinger could. So I think that's a great analogy.
Yeah, and I was, as it was going on, I wasn't watching it live, but there was a lot of people putting it on Twitter. Bayley's outfit reminded them of Sting from 1989.
Yeah.
Great American Bash, and it was the bright orange with the bright blue, and she could have been paying homage to him because him going in the Hall of Fame the next night. But it was she does. The crowd's very much behind her when she comes out. it's going to be hard to turn her heel if they ever try to.
I don't think
That's kind of the thing with Sting.
I think she's a Bret Hart type character where he just never felt good as a heel. And the only way they could turn him heel was play to Canada because he was cheered everywhere else, except for the United States. And I just don't. I don't think she'll ever be heel. And if she keeps working like that, it doesn't matter because like I said, she's the first pure babyface we've seen in years that people are behind. Like people want to see, there. I just don't see her ever turning heel. I just don't think it matches her.
Speaking of heel, and I don't know if we're done with this or not, but I'm gonna change the subject. Do you feel like Reigns is going heel?
No, they're not going to turn heel. I think it's interesting where they're turning him, where he's like, I don't care what you say. I'm not a bad guy. They're trying to make him cleaner, and that's not going to work either. But
I don't know. His arrogance, if he can come off, because he does kind of come off as his arrogant. Yeah. If they keep booking him like that.
Do it, though. Like, I don't know if they'll let him completely do it.
I liked it. I liked the promo he cut because he come out and he's getting booed. And, he's like, oh, come on. He's like, I'm not a good guy. I'm not a bad guy. I'm the guy. And I was like, I like that arrogance.
Yeah, I like it. It works for him, but I don't know how far they'll let him go.
God, they should just turn him.
They should. They should just turn him.
Well, don't turn him. Let the fans turn him, which they've already have.
Yeah.
Just let him keep playing that character, and the fans will continue to boo him. And
either one or two things happen. The fans continue to boo him, or they like the character and they start cheering him.
Yep.
Let him do something. Let him use that.
Let him do it on his own. Don't make it a force type thing. And I think working with AJ is really going to be what turns him heel. Because I think what'll happen is he'll either cheat or do something underhanded, and it'll build more heat against him. Because AJ is kind of that pure babyface too. AJ can be a heel, but that's not.
It doesn't fit AJ.
No, his personality's not that. So he's just that. He's that babyface that Roman probably needs right now since Cena's out. I don't see a Roman Reigns Cena match anyway.
No, I don't think so either.
I think Vince has shoved him so far down everybody's throat that I should just let the crowd decide which way to turn him.
Well, I've said before, and I said this on a couple podcasts before. I think when me and Jared was just doing it, I said, I think Vince is doing this to inspire the fans. Vince wants to do what Vince wants to do. I don't think Triple H is going to talk him out of it. I don't think Stephanie's going to talk him out of it. This is Vince wanting to do Vince. I think this goes back to them cheering Daniel Bryan, and they had to change the main event because if didn't, it was going to be the worst main event ever. I think this is Vince saying, I'm going to do it my way. I don't care what you say. This guy's going to be the next star of the company, and Vince is doing it out of spot.
You know what, though? And Vince kind of set precedence, though, is when they changed their booking. They didn't stick with what they originally had planned. They let the fans dictate what was going on, and therefore, from now on, the fans will keep demanding it until they get what they want.
And the fans is partially responsible for Roman Reigns. Let's not act like we didn't have nothing to do with this, because when the Royal Rumble, when he threw out 12 guys in a row, everybody was like, "Oh, Roman Reigns is awesome. We want Roman to win." And part of that was because we didn't want Batista to win, but it was a pretty awesome him throwing everybody out, and everybody was hyped about it. And Vince probably took that. He was like, "He's going to be the next John Cena," and that's where he messed up.
Well, I think like going back to what you said, Vince is like, I gave you Daniel Bryan, you wanted him, I gave you him. Now it's my turn. This is the guy that I want.
Right, and he's not going to change it.
No, he's not.
He's not. And it's set. The road's set. It's already been paved. I just don't see him changing.
I like Reigns. I do.
Reigns, we talked about this, and we'll jump off the subject here in a minute because we need to talk about the main event right quick. But yeah, Reigns is a very athletic guy. I think he could go. I think he's a better wrestler than Cena was when they started pushing Cena down the throat. I think he can go. He's got better talent to go with, so we kind of see what he can do. But yeah, I feel sorry for that guy, but I really feel like this is his. We talk about Vince all the time, but I just feel like this is his. This is what I'm going to do, and you're not going to stop me.
Well, I think Vince was building him up to begin with, but when Rollins got hurt, I think he just had to throw the dice.
Beat Rollins at WrestleMania. This was inevitable. Like this was. It would. In fact, before Rollins got hurt, there was rumor that they was going to let him win at Royal Rumble. So, I mean, this was going to be inevitable, whoever was going to be the champ. I just don't see it not happening. Real quick, main event, AJ Styles, it was supposed to be AJ, Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, and
Chris Jericho.
Sami Zayn got Sami Zayn got jumped by Owens. Powerbomb through the table, knocked out. Didn't know who it was. Cesaro came back, which we're all big Cesaro fans. With a Cesaro section of Monsters of Geek. Really good match. It was a really good four-way match. The thing that I'm seeing, Jaron, maybe, we always talk about four-way matches, triple threat matches, how they can kind of not be great, regardless who's in there. Most of these guys in the ring at this point, maybe minus Jericho, but especially AJ, Cesaro, and Owens, I remember when ROH would just throw four guys out there. I mean, they wrestled triple threat in four-way matches. I'm sure a couple times a week, and you can see that, and you see it in women's as well because they did a lot in NXT. Those guys adapt to multi-man matches like I've never seen. Like, it's just a good match, and usually those aren't.
Well, think about the scramble matches. Yep. You have 6 men in there, and as soon as one goes outside, the next person jumps in. I mean, they're just constantly flying everywhere, and those are some of the funnest ones to watch. But yeah, ROH has some of the best four ways or triple threat matches that you'll ever watch. And it shows with Cesaro and AJ and Kevin Owens. They've been in a lot of them, and especially, they do a lot of their tag team matches too, especially like blow off the feud. They'll do a Texas Tornado tag where all four men are in the ring at the same time, and it's kind of the same concept with something like that. With a fatal four-way is because you just turn around, grab somebody, and start going at it. So yeah, I think with some of those guys coming off the indie scene, it does make it a little more interesting. You think about some of the stuff you'd saw in the past when there was I think the main event at one Wrestlemania was Triple H, Mick Foley, Big Show, and I can't even think of the fourth person. Was it Rock?
Yeah, because the McMahons all chose one.
Yep, that's right. But that was one of the worst main events. I mean, it was just you had four good workers, but they didn't know how to work in a match like that. So
I think those guys, because they have so many of those matches on the indies, they bring that experience back. Okay, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to do it. Because even in ROH, they would have a guy lay on the outside for a while, kind of recuperating while the other guys would wrestle. And in WB, they always feel like they have to have somebody involved. Like, everybody's got to be involved. And,
even TNA, you had Samoa Joe, Christopher Daniels, and AJ Styles. How many triple threat matches did they have?
Yeah, in the history of wrestling at this point. So, yeah, I just thought I want to throw that off of you too, because we've watched a lot of ROH. Joe's watched some ROH, and I just felt like, man, these guys just have a flow. They must have got that from ROH.
Well, the thing is they're so used to working with each other. I mean, you have Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn and Cesaro and AJ, they're all used to working with each other. You put them in a ring, you put three of them in the ring together with Chris Jericho, because Chris Jericho can adapt to a lot of things.
Pretty much anything, right?
Yeah, and it doesn't matter who you pair up with, because it's going to be a good match either way.
Yeah.
Now, my favorite moment was when it was AJ and Cesaro in the ring, and the crowd just went crazy.
Yeah, they started going nuts.
Yeah. So that's one of my favorite moments in it. But I really thought that they might have introduced Samoa Joe right there.
Well, I thought so too, and that's what I thought was going to happen since he lost to Finn Balor. I thought they would bring him out, but maybe they're saving him for something else. But AJ ended up winning, new number one contender. It was a really good match, really good way to end Raw. Those it's really hard to mess up a Raw after WrestleMania. Besides the Zack Ryder thing, I thought it was pretty good. But it'll be AJ and Roman Reigns at the next pay-per-view. Jared, what do you think? Do you think they're going to let Roman Reigns run through some of these indie guys to build his credit? I mean, do you think this is what's going to happen from this?
I hope not, but that's how Vince will book
Remember,
it.
Jared, that road's been paved. So.
I know it's, Punk and Daniel Bryan pretty much ruined it for everybody else. That the fans can get them to the top, but Vince putting them over is going to be rough. And for Vince to put them over, they're really going to have to earn something.
Yeah, and like you said, Triple H has some say, but it's still Vince's call. until Vince doesn't want to do this anymore, it's still Vince's call.
And even on the Hall of Fame speech, Michael Hayes kind of alluded to the frustrations that the fans had. He wanted to thank all the writers that he worked with every day, and they put in all the long hours and worked really hard. But he kind of alluded to how no matter what they do, Vince is always going to have the final say. So when you want to take your frustrations out on them, it's not them all the time.
Those guys are rewriting shows like 4 hours before Raw goes on.
Well, up until like 4 o'clock of Wrestlemania, Kevin Owens was still supposed to keep the belt.
Right. Yep.
So like 3 hours before the show, they're rewriting and say, okay, Zack Ryder's on the land.
He just didn't get the email. The Wi-Fi went down. He didn't get the email until like. But yeah, Raw was good. It was awesome. It was minus the Zack Ryder thing. I thought it was really good. I thought the whole weekend minus 2 hours of the whole wrestling show was really good at WrestleMania. But go watch NXT. Go watch that whole show. I thought it was great. I thought it was one of the best wrestling shows I've seen. And the London one's really good as well, but I thought this was just.
It's worth paying $9.99 just to watch NXT.
Yeah, that's what we was talking about. Yeah. I said it. I was like, just go. You can cut it off the next month. Just go watch that NXT. You'll thank us later.
I mean, it's just worth watching on Wednesdays. I mean, it's worth the $10. So.
Before we get off here, did you watch the Hall of Fame?
I did watch the Hall of Fame. I thought it was very well done. I thought the Freebirds obviously stole the show just like everybody thought they would. Everything about their speech. I mean, it went long to a certain extent, but I thought it was very well done. It wasn't.
It didn't seem like it was long though. It was very entertaining.
It was very interesting. They kept the crowds and stuff, and it was just great. Speech was really. I thought it was very kind of Sting type speech. It wasn't nothing super flashy or anything like that. It was just paying the respects of the business, and I thought Flair's introduction was really good. I'm sure he was reined in a little bit, like he said, because he pretty much got JR fired. Let's just be 100% honest there. But I thought it was all really well done, man, and it was a fun watch.
Yeah, I always enjoy listening to a lot of the stories and stuff, and I thought, Bradshaw and Ron Simmons, they kicked it off right, and they were very funny out there. But yeah, New Day and the Freebirds, they did steal the show, but it was a good solid watch for anybody who wants to relive a little bit of history of the business.
I thought the Dudleys did really well. Introducing Jacqueline. I thought they had a really good speech. I like the part where Devon was like, where it's like, whoa, you're just supposed to say testify. I thought that was just absolutely hilarious. You can tell those guys riff off each other because it kind of caught Devon by surprise, but he rolled with it. I thought it was really cool. And speaking of women's wrestling, I mean, Jacqueline was there. I mean, I remember seeing Jacqueline. I guess maybe I don't put her as high as like Trish or Lita.
Yeah, she was pretty rough in the ring. I mean, she's pretty physical for a female.
All right, well that's it. Thank you guys for listening to us ramble about the WrestleMania weekend. We try to stream the major pay-per-views. I think the next one we'll probably try to do is the Money in the Bank probably. And no, we don't put the show on the screen. It's just us talking, so don't dislike us because you think we're going to give you a free pay-per-view. So, but yeah, for Jared, for Yeti, I'm your editor-in-chief, Aaron. And don't forget to go check out monstersofgeek.com. Go check out all of our cool friends that put up some awesome stuff about everything in the geek universe. So that's it. So we'll see you next time. Next big wrestling pay-per-view, we'll see you on YouTube.